It's 35 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. In the studio with me this morning, we have Jean Ratcliffe. Jean is the chair of the San Lorenzo Valley Water District. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning.
And also with us, we have Brian Lee. Brian is the general manager of said Water District 2. Good morning.
Good morning. Always a pleasure.
Nice to see you both here, too, because we have a lot to chat about this morning. Jean, how long have you been the chair of the board?
Since our meeting in December. We change every year typically for the chairman.
And was that something that you were happy to become?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how long have you been on the board?
I was elected 2 years ago.
That's right. That's why I became a citizen, you know.
I remember that, yes.
I did. And you know what? I'm so glad. I like to think that it had spurred other people into becoming engaged, not just in water departments, but in other civic matters in the area. I just talked about it a lot when I was becoming a citizen, and I hope that that was the case. Brian, how long have you been our general manager up in the Valley?
I've been the general manager for about 2 years and a couple months.
Okay. So we got a bit of a hot potato going on, and it seemed like it was the look at that, I'm good at understatements, huh? So I don't know which one of you would like to explain it with your viewpoint. Either one of you can choose to explain what happened and why we find ourselves and I am a ratepayer for the district, why we find ourselves facing a bill that looks like it's going to go over six figures for legal fees concerning the purchase of a home on Rebecca Drive in Boulder Creek that the district purchased, and the purveyor of that purchase was on the board of directors, Terry Vieira. He is no longer on that board. Legal fees were involved with the case. A local individual sued the district because they said it was a conflict of interest. The judge issued his determination in the case, and you are now further pursuing charges because you believe that the judge was incorrect. So is that a fair assumption of what happened?
Yes, in general, the one thing that I think is difficult here is a very complex case, and there's several different layers to it. It did indeed involve the purchase of the home from the Dildines, who selected Director Vieira's wife as their sales agent. So, and he does have a part ownership interest in that real estate company. This was, as a director myself, I looked at the history, and we all are very conscious of conflicts of interest in a small community because many people who are civically involved are also business people in the district. So we all make our best effort to recuse ourselves, that is to say, I have a conflict of interest, I have a financial interest in this discussion, I can't be involved. And Director Vieira did that on numerous occasions, but as we found out during the trial, there were some technicalities, and the judge described a technical violation that we did not understand at the beginning of this trial. But there was indeed a technical violation, according to the judge.
And what was that technical violation?
Well, it involved what we call a consent agenda item. It's an item that is typically ministerial, which is, we read through it, it's not discussed, we sort of check it off. It was a bill list. And maybe
Sure.
You can describe the two items.
Every month, the district staff put together a list of all of our bills that have been paid and bills that are to be paid. And it's an opportunity to be public about our finances.
Okay.
And the board accepts those into the public record by vote. And on that bill list, for this particular instance, were a termite inspection, a septic tank inspection, a geotechnical inspection, a title report associated with the property. Approving that bill list into the public record, the judge said was a technical participation issue, which caught everybody off guard because we all assumed that was just an administrative issue, that it wasn't participatory because the board had no discretion. Our bills have to be paid.
Of course.
So that was what the judge said. And it's important to remember the judge also said in the courtroom, the judge apologized to Terry for making the decision he made. And the judge said that Terry tried to do everything right and that Terry got caught because a small water district made a small mistake. That's what the judge said.
But so it's still a mistake. Well, small or large, it is still a mistake, an error.
And the judge said the district made the mistake.
Okay.
So that's why we're kind of still here in the simplistic version, not the legalese, the wonky version, but in the simplistic version, we're still here because the judge said the district made the mistake. And it doesn't seem fair to hold one person accountable for a company mistake. If he tried to do everything right and got hooked up on something that the district has historically been doing, that's where we are.
Then the question and am I right in saying that we are looking at this continuing on because you have challenged the judge's decision? Mm-hmm. So that means that, first of all, we have counsel. The counsel that represents Mr. Vieira is also the counsel that represents you as a board. I find that, I don't know about the legalities of it, and perhaps you can direct me on that, because that doesn't seem right to me either. It seems a little bit like everyone's in bed together here. And I'm sure if you're looking at it from the public's point of view, they are going to think that too. I mean, so we've got a director who got paid because of a business deal that was done with the district. The district is now challenging the judge's decision, and the counsel for both that director and the district are one and the same. Go ahead.
Well, actually, that's an excellent point, because this is very confusing to people who say it is. There's been a lot of discussion about directors as employees, and we are obliged to defend our employees unless there's an egregious violation, which this was not. It was unanticipated and
when
minor.
The judge has to apologize for his decision, it's not as traumatic as everyone's trying to make it out.
Well, I don't care if the judge apologized or not. He said that you made an error, and you made an error.
Right, but, going into this case, we did not perceive any violation. And so we defend directors as employees. That's in the California Government Code. And we decided...
That's 825 and 995, by the way.
And we decided to go for a trial for a motion for a new trial. Which is not the same as an appeal. And maybe Brian could describe the difference between those two.
I can describe the difference, so I want to go back a little bit, if I'm allowed, and to say that when the lawsuit was first filed, it was filed against the district, Terry Vieira, 21st Century Real Estate, and the sellers of the property. So Bruce Holloway sued all four of those individuals, plus a few more. Mm-hmm. So the district decided to defend Vieira and the district at the same time, using the same lawyer as an effort to save money. We had to have a lawyer. The district did. Vieira had to have a lawyer. It seemed expedient and cost-effective to use the same lawyer.
We're going to take a traffic break, but when we come back, I want to talk about this director versus employee. And I also am going to ask you directly, just how far are you going to take this? Just how much of my money are you going to be spending on a case that personally I think should be closed? We are continuing in discussion with Jean Ratcliffe, who is chair of the San Lorenzo Valley Water District Board, and Brian Lee, who is the general manager. And we're talking about a case here that involves the ex-director of the district, Mr. Terry Vieira. Okay, either one of you can answer. You've changed your justification on director versus employee. Just exactly, in your opinion, what was Mr. Vieira? Was he an employee? If so, did he have compensation, workers' comp? Because when you have an employee, you have to have workers' comp. Or was he a director?
So we're going to go a little legalese on you here.
Oh, that's fine.
Apologize for that. In the Government Code for the Government Claims Act and the Political Reform Act, if you look up the definition of employee, it says also public official. And if you go and look up the definition of public official, it says elected official. So you kind of have to go deep into these two laws to understand that those two laws consider elected officials as employees under those two laws. So it's not a district definition, it's actually the legal definition.
Well, you guys have vacillated on this, though, as this has been moving along. Sometimes you're calling him a director, and sometimes you're calling him an employee. But be that as is may, now here is really, to me, the crux of it all. We already have a substantial legal bill that the ratepayers will be paying. How many ratepayers do we have?
We have about 8,900. No, I'm sorry, 7,900.
7,900. So we're going to be paying this bill, which is already standing at 70 grand. You've decided to go ahead and appeal the Judge Gallagher's decision on this. and I'm going to have to pay for it. Why, oh, why? You got your house. Mr. Vieira is no longer a director. Why are you putting this on my back and the backs of the other 7,900 people that are customers? Why can't you just call this a day? You got the house on Rebecca Drive. Congratulations. I'm sure. Why do you have to continue it? It's just so irksome at a time when I just had Rosemary Menard here, who is talking about the fact that the water system in our area, she was referring to everybody's, not just Santa Cruz, is just so dilapidated and needs so much work. I would be happy for you to come into the area, Brian, 2 years ago. Keep things transparent, which is what you said you were going to do. Deliver us clean water and get us the hell out of litigation and stop paying for it and stop the whole thing.
Well, can I jump in real quick with a point of it's a detail, but it's an important detail. We haven't filed an appeal. A request for a new trial is different than an appeal because it has a different standard. It's not just saying, we weren't happy with that judge's decision. We want to have another judge look at it. A new trial motion is more like, there are things that we don't think were adequately considered in the first trial.
I understand that. That's a horse by another name, Jean. I don't care what you're calling it. Why don't you just stop it and let us have the money and use the money for the infrastructure of an aging water system?
Well, good question. I will turn the money question over to Brian because he's got a better idea about the scope of this. But and it is frustrating. It seems like trivia, but from a legal standpoint, they are significantly different because it involves new information or unconsidered information. But Brian, maybe you could address the cost.
Well, the cost is certainly a large cost. I'm not going to argue that. Legal fees are expensive. And the concept of if the district gets sued or if one of the district's employees or directors gets sued, I think kind of what you're arguing for is that the district should just roll over and accept it.
You got your house. You got the property that you wanted.
Then
he made some money, which I don't think he should have done. I do believe it was a conflict of interest. The email, come on, Brian, the email from September the 2nd, he sent an email from his Realty business account to Jim Mueller, who was then the general manager, advising him on the property prices in relation to that house on Rebecca Drive. And then that same evening, the director attended the board of directors meeting and said he wouldn't participate in the agenda item because due to an income interest conflict. That should have been pegged at the time, in my opinion. But why are you continuing? Why do you have to keep on paying? The only people who are winning here are the lawyers. I'm not going to win. What am I going to win as a ratepayer? Jack.
So what you're asking is a question that I've been asking Bruce Holloway for the past 2 years. Why don't you drop this lawsuit? You got what you wanted. Terry's no longer on the board. Okay. The district sold the property in question later on after we got the portion that we needed. Why don't you drop the lawsuit? Bruce Holloway has refused to drop the lawsuit.
That is correct, and I asked him the same question.
And it's a valid question.
And he's an obstinate and stubborn man, and he's going forward with his beliefs. But the same applies to you. It's his money. He's being paid, right? Mr. Holloway's being paid. It's a no-win situation, guys. Why can't you see that?
I definitely see that, and
then
trust me, Rosie,
why don't you act on it?
We are acting on it. We are acting based on the information that the board has, and I wish we could talk about what's being discussed in closed session because there's obviously more to the situation than everybody understands. And all I can do is ask you to have faith in your board, the board that a lot of the district ratepayers put in place after the last fiasco 2 years ago.
That's right.
So, everybody is not giving these 5 individuals the faith or the hope that after the last 2 years of incredible progress we've made, there seems to be this small group of people that want to go back to the turmoil of 2 years ago and not give these people, these are your neighbors.
I know they're my neighbors. It's me. It's my damn bill that comes through every 2 months. Now, then we have Barry Holtzclaw from the Press Banner, and we have the article that came out on the March 10th newspaper. SLV Water District controversy boils over. Manager Lee warns his directors to keep quiet, but Smallman breaks his silence. And he went on to say, Mr. Bill Smallman, and I voted for him, I can't talk about what specifically took place in closed meetings. He wrote in an email, if I discuss this issue publicly, I was told that all it would do would worsen my relationship with the other directors, but I don't care. They're childishly trying to keep me out of this. My position has not changed. Vieira violated conflict of interest. It is that simple. This board and Brian are completely out of touch, and their reasoning is absurd, in my opinion. They think it's all going to roll over and people will let it go.
I would like to address this because as a director, it's been incredibly frustrating to have to preserve that veil of confidentiality. Very frustrating, because we have a higher standard of responsibility as far as director speech. As elected officials, we are restricted, rightly so, by speaking at open board meetings. Directors can't discuss district business with one another outside of board meetings because of the Brown Act requirements. We can't do collective emails. There's lots of restrictions that limit our discussion to public meetings, which is the whole point of the Brown Act, is keep discussions about the public's business in public. But there are closed session items, specific legal action in this case. And people have asked me lots of questions that I could answer, but it's irresponsible of me to answer them at this point. And we just have to, put up with the slings and arrows that are hurled at us, because we are doing the right thing for the district in the big picture. And this is something that is a burr under people's saddle, and people are very upset about it, which I understand. We are ratepayers as well. But there is a reason that we have been reticent, and that reason is these restrictions put on director speech. And I really hope that when people do come to meetings, we'll be able to, discuss this at the appropriate time. But pending litigation is just something that we are advised not to discuss. And as individual directors, we really don't have power. The power of the group comes from all of us together.
That I understand. Yeah. So then we're coming up on being out of time here. How far are you going to take this, Brian? How much money are you prepared to use of the ratepayers' money that they pay to this water district for clean, clear drinking water? How far will you go? Will you let it go up to $250,000 or $500,000 in legal fees just to prove this point that you can't talk about right now?
No.
So have you chosen a stopping point of a fiscal amount that you're prepared to go to, and if it goes $1 over that, we're over, and we'll just throw up the rest of the money in the air because it'll never end?
Well, that's not his decision to make, actually. The directors have to make that decision.
So how are you personally, do you have a thought, or if you're allowed to discuss this, as to just how far you'll let it go on our backs and yours?
Right. I will tell you right now, I don't make any decision until we've had a group discussion about any issue. Certainly I think about it. We've all been thinking about it anytime we have a big issue. But that's the whole point of our meetings, is we withhold decisions until we hear others' points of view. And, there may be new information. But at this point, I certainly have my own ideas, as do other directors, I'm sure based on previous meetings. But we make a decision as a group after group discussion, and, I'm really looking forward to this being concluded. As the rest of the people in the district are, I will be so happy when this is wrapped up.
It's a major distraction, especially after the storms that we've had. It is a major distraction, and everyone would like it to be out of the way. Jean Ratcliffe, Chair of the Board, San Lorenzo Valley Water District. Brian Lee, General Manager of that same district. Appreciate you coming in this morning, and it's always good to have a conversation with you.
Anytime. Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.